Yo, what is up guys, my name is Grizzly, welcome back to another League of Legends video. Today I'm gonna do an updated guide for Darius top lane, and this will be updated for patch 8.7, but it will probably be relevant for quite a long time, because Riot just introduced, or a patch ago, they introduced the new Conqueror rune, which kinda changed the landscape in top lane quite a lot. And I think the meta in top lane will stay the same for quite a while, so I think this guide will hopefully be updated for quite a bit of time moving forward. So in this guide I'm just gonna cover all the setup for Darius, like what items to build and his runes basically, because those things I know everyone is kind of looking for them and there's not really that many good resources. You could look statistics on op.gg and stuff like that, but overall like it's better to get the runes and the items explained from someone that actually plays the champion on quite a high level. So let's get right into it guys. So as for the runes, now it's very simple on Darius, as before it was a lot more complicated actually. Before you had a lot more options than you have now, and that could be positive or negative, it really depends on where you're coming from. In my opinion, I'm happy that there's like one page that's actually good now, because before it felt like there wasn't really a page that was super good. Everything was like decent. Obviously before Phase Rush was kind of the best thing to go, but it wasn't that good. But now we're going into the precision tree as our primary, and we're grabbing Conqueror like all the time on Darius. It's kind of like made for him in a sense. It's super good for him. The only negative with it is that his ult already deals true damage, so you don't get the extra like bonus true damage on the true damage kind of thing, but it still grants you flat AD, and flat AD is one of the best stats you could have on Darius, so the new Conqueror rune is super good on him. The second row, Triumph, is super good for our snowball potential, but also our resets in fights, and also potential 1v2 outplays in side lanes, so Triumph is the best choice here. On this row you could do some different stuff. If you're against a lot of CC and you don't think you really need the extra attack speed for the all-ins, you can go Legend Tenacity, but the extra attack speed always helps with pushing down towers or stacking your passive faster in clutch situations. So overall I would just grab Alacrity if you're looking for like a go-to page. You should definitely go Alacrity most of the time, but Tenacity could also be good sometimes. It got buffed recently as well. On the last row here, coup de grace against lanes where you're gonna pressure the opponent, and when you're gonna get pressured you go Last Stand. Overall Last Stand is a better rune overall. It has a lot more like overall like statistical value. But in lanes where you're not gonna get low, so for example if you're playing against a tank or you're playing against a lane where you're really comfortable in playing against, for example when I play Darius against Camille, I'm very confident I can win, so I go coup de grace in those sort of lanes. But it really depends on you guys, like you have to feel it for yourself if you're gonna be pressured or you're gonna pressure the enemy, and also if you think you're gonna get camped a lot, Last Stand also has more value then, because obviously you're gonna get low if you're 1v2ing, and you can clutch it out with Last Stand because it adds so much more damage. So yeah, it really depends, but overall I would go with coup de grace, since Darius often is on the aggressive and not the defensive, but it's really up to you guys. Okay, so for the second tree, we have two alternatives, Resolve and Sorcery. I will cover the Resolve first, because it's the more standard and it's overall the better one. So first row, a no-brainer, Bone Plating, super strong rune, just reduces the damage you take, so it's overall like super solid. On this row, however, we have some thinking to do again. Chrysalis, you go into lanes where all-ins are very important, so for example against the Riven, because those lanes are often going to play out like in a kind of like you stand around, you wait, and then there's going to be a really explosive all-in, and Chrysalis adds either more HP or AD in those all-ins, and that's super good, whilst as Second Wind really like makes poke lanes a lot easier for you to survive. So for example against a Jace, a Teemo, even a Camille that goes Comet, that's gonna poke you a lot. Like Second Wind does so much in those lanes, so this row really depends, but like overall you're not gonna face poke lanes that much in top lane right now. It's not really like the flavor of the month per se, so Chrysalis overall is a safer pick if you don't want to like always change your runes, but definitely against poke lanes I would recommend Second Wind. So the other alternative is when you play against someone that you're really confident you can take down, and a lane you really want to like have a lot of kill pressure in, and this scales better as well, but it's really risky because if you face against a bruiser, that's playing equally well as you, and they go resolve, they will auto win the lane, so you really have to be careful with this, but if you can get away with it, it's super good. So what you do is you grab Celerity and you grab either Scorch or Gathering Storm, and this really depends how greedy you want to be. If you want to go Sorcery to like try to get some early kills with that extra flat AD that you get from going this tree, you get 6 flat AD instead of 15 to 135 scaling health, so it's obviously better early game in those all-ins. You can go Celerity and Scorch, but if you face against someone and you just like think that you don't need the defensives, but you also want to like scale and do more damage later on, you go Celerity Gathering Storm to get that like insane AD later on. So it actually really depends on the lane, and you have to do some thinking. So even though there's only like one primary page for Darius now with Conqueror, there's still a lot of small alternatives you can change around depending on the game and what you're playing against, stuff like that. So I think it's still quite interesting, and I think overall that Riot did a pretty good job with the new rune system, even though like it gets a lot of hate from some people, but I overall think it's actually fine. So okay, but now we covered the runes. I'm just gonna like quickly recap what I just went through. So basically, like if you want the standard runes, if you want to like pause the video and screenshot them and use them, I would say like if you're scared in lane, this is what I would go right here. And if you feel like you want a solid page where you think you're gonna like go even with the opponent most of the time, this is the page I would go. And if you're really confident, you're an alpha male, no, just kidding, but if you like want the snowball page and you want to like scale well and do really well, and if you're really confident, I would go this page. But this one is risky, so don't use it like all the time. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the items. As for starting items, the most common one is gonna be Corrupting Potion, because Darius is quite mana hungry, so in extended early lane phases where the enemy has sustain and wants to stay in lane like a couple of minutes at least, Corrupting Potion is the best. But this one is the weakest of all the three in all-ins, so you have to like keep that in mind to not go for the like 100 to 0 like balls to the wall all-ins if the enemy does have a Doran's item, because Corrupting Potion will lose out most of the time. Of course it depends, if you play against like a Shogath and he starts Doran's Ring, like of course you can all-in him with Corrupting Potion, but I'm talking like if you play Darius against Riven for example and you want to all-in level 4, Corrupting Potion is probably not the best item, because Doran's Blade or Shield would be better in that case. But overall it's the most like standard starting item. Doran's Blade is if you want to go aggressive and you think you can get a lot of auto trades on the opponent. It gives flat AD, which is like, it's the only starting item that actually gives us flat AD, so it's very valuable, but if you take a bad trade early on and you don't have second wind with Doran's Blade, you're screwed. You have to back and TP to lane, so it's risky, but it can pay off. And then Doran's Shield is like the safe alternative if you're against like a hard poke lane such as Jace and you don't think you can contest him and you know like you're not gonna get ganks from your jungler and you just want to sit back and farm, like Doran's Shield is of course a solid alternative. So as for the core, Black Cleaver is like the go-to rush item every game, like never rush anything else on Darius I would say. I've seen like some Darius mains got Trinity Force and I tried it out and I think it's super good if you're smurfing, but if you play against people that are equal skill to you, Black Cleaver is better, for sure. And then as for our boots, it's either Ninjas or Mercs every game, there's no other alternatives. Ninjas got nerfed last patch, but they're still quite good, so it's either Ninjas or Mercs depending on the enemy team comp. And then, not straight after Black Cleaver most of the time, but you wanna make sure that you finish a Sterk's Gauge like somewhere in your build, if that makes sense. Like it's definitely always gonna be an item in your inventory when you're at 6 slots, so that's why I kept it in the core build, whereas all the other items can vary depending on the game. So Titanic Hydra is the most standard second rush item on Darius after Black Cleaver and boots of course, and it adds a lot of like split pushing power and burst if you manage to get onto an enemy champion in team fights. Also good wave clear, everything like that. Overall it's super solid item, but if you're behind or if you think that you can just go into fights and if you build an armor item you can instant frontline a lot better, like some games it's just like it's not needed, you know, to go Titanic Hydra, so it actually really depends on the game. If you're against like a full tank and you can't kill him in lane because he has farmed good or you got a little bit camped and you don't really have an advantage on him, like don't build into Titanic and make him wreck team fight, just build tank yourself and you can probably mirror his power, if not even better, if you're good at playing Darius, because people in solo queue don't coordinate enough to like kite Darius properly when he gets 5 stacks and stuff like that. So most of the time in team fights, if you yourself build tank, you can just hit the enemy front line, like eat them away from your carries, get 5 stacks, and if the enemy carries walks too close, you can just Q ult them for their entire health. So sometimes it's just better to survive in fights. That's kind of the general thought process of it. And then Deadman's Plate is actually super good on Darius as a second item, but overall it doesn't give us that much tankiness. It's more of like an overall rounded item. You get more tanky than with Titanic, and you also get some damage, and the movement speed is super nice, so actually it really depends. If you're against like a Rumble or a Swain or something like that, Adaptive Helm is a super good second item. Even a third item, it's super good. Deadman's Plate can be good third item as well, but it really actually depends. Overall, I think Deadman's Plate is a better second item, if that makes sense. So Randuins, if they have a lot of crit, super good. Also if you need armor, of course. Spirit Visage is the standard MR item, but Adaptive is really good against certain champions such as Malzahar, Swain, basically champions that deal a lot of damage with the same type of abilities like Cassiopeia, stuff like that. And then Death Stance if you're really ahead and you just want like the max amount of damage and like business in split push, or even if you're so ahead and you have like someone that can shield you in fights, for example like Lulu or something, like Death Stance can make you hard carry some games, but overall not an item you should build every game. And then Thornmail, super good against reducing healing, and it also gives us a lot of armor, so it's a good armor alternative. And then obviously Guardian Angel is an item that you build if you want to like finish the game in the like next 5 to 6 minutes, because it doesn't really give that much like value in terms of stats, but it's a like super good spike item if you want to like get that extra bit of power before you like finish a game. Like owning a Guardian Angel and a red pot like can make sure that you like win a fight, you know, super hard. So, but it's not like often worth a slot if the game is gonna drag on really long. If not, it's a like 5th or 6th item. If you're facing a lot of AD, then of course it could be valuable. So it actually really depends. But overall, like a typical like finish build for Darius would be like Black Cleaver, Ninja Tabis, Titanic Hydra, and then you would go like some armor or MR depending on what you need, Stair's Cage, and then one other like armor MR item depending on what you need. So that would be like a standard build on Darius. You get a lot of HP, AD, and resistances. That's basically what you want to aim for. But yeah, that was it for my Darius guide. I hope you guys learned something from it, that you found it enjoyable. If you like these sort of in-depth like build videos, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video. But other than that, thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.